I will post this then, but if they are, then we can put it up. Okay. So now I think. So back here. So yeah, I think you can just go through your slides.
Freezing.
No, my family, that's where I was for a while.
Oh, really?
In Madison. About an hour.
Sure.
I made that trip.
Well, are we all? Or you want
Yeah.
just up here, or what do we want to do?
Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
You
go on through.
Yeah. Shoot me an email, text, whatever.
Okay, I can give an introduction to that.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I do too.
Some people don't. Yeah.
Thanks, Barnes. Thank you.
You can show the video.
Yeah, I can do this introduce video, introduce.
These guys. And then we'll see where we're even at.
Right.
Yeah.
Depending on how much they share.
All right.
So are we the four of us gonna sit here or the three of
I
us?
just put my stuff there.
Okay, I'll put my stuff there.
Yeah,
Are you sitting there or you just put your stuff there?
I put my stuff there, but I'm gonna sit there because you're gonna start.
The chairs kind of move around.
Oh, we can move back and forth, okay.
You can put them really wherever you want. They tend to do a lot of migrating, so
Yes.
this room is always working.
Yes.
Okay, I highly recommend Esther's cook.
So if you notice in the prayers, you put the bishop's last. Mercy. Yeah, mention bishop. And her call for mercy to Trump. I was like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, couldn't you? This is not Lutheran?
No. I was just like, I don't know how much to put in the.
How much we're gonna push the envelope?
Well, yeah. But I didn't know.
Well, right, or there's pushing the envelope, but then there's also suddenly the conversation becomes something you don't want it to be.
Right, then we could have steered in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and then people stop listening and I'm
Right.
afraid, so it's like. And those who don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Media, those who are connected.
So Oliver.
Oh, I love it.
Honestly, I was planning to sign out before you.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
we've talked about it for a while.
thank you for that. That's kind of one of our growing areas. We're gonna kind of highlight it all throughout the coming year too, of like, for newer folks in the congregation, how do I get involved? Or what are our opportunities here? Thinking about how we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, have a good day.
Thank you.
That's, it's a pretty, I mean, it's all. I guess that's why it's also. I know who I am. Yeah. I even told Olivia, and they don't spend. Oh, in fact, so they, you've been like, that's not. I would say that. It's the negative, like. They said like. Yes. They're making money off of it. Get off. I think then I felt like. And I think.
Amazing. I think that that's one of our biggest acts.
Oh, thank you. We'll have to just make sure all of our volunteers know what to do.
Yeah, so you're, we can put some other things first, maybe Gabriel and you want to sit on these two, you gotta be on the side and when we come in, pull them more inside. But I'll.
Is that your wife?
Oh, is it okay with
Stop poking them.
we don't need to or share it. This is really about also sensitivity. And kind of want it recorded and shared with people.
I'm not in here.
Out of my comfort zone. So we have a, like, we can record it on Zoom and then Pastor John comes in and shares it with the congregation for people who aren't here. Is that okay with you? Okay.
I got it. Right.
So they're okay with recording.
Okay.
I don't know what to say. Live on. Yes.
Yeah, oh, no,
Maybe I'll hit 100.
We
My
want.
dad did.
You know that, yeah.
I passed everybody else
No,
up except my.
constantly.
One was 99, the other one was 98.
Makes me sick.
Ways to go.
I got a ways to go yet.
You rock it.
Thank you. Yes, that's all that matters, really. You just have to fake it.
Yes.
You ready? How do I get to the welcome screen? I just press the space bar.
Well, thank you for staying and welcome to RIC Sunday. We have a forum planned with a variety of things. We have some guests to talk, but there'll also be some conversation about what we heard and saw today in worship and what, as a congregation, how we can grow into our identity further as an RIC congregation. So Pastor did read the welcome statement during worship, but we thought it helpful to revisit it again, kind of to focus our discussion and have like an overarching theme for today, and to remind us that when we did put this together during COVID, of all things, that this reflects our mission, our vision, and who we feel that we are as a faith community. So would anyone like to read it out loud? Oh, Lisa.
Faith Lutheran Church is a community living in God's love, which embraces and welcomes every person as part of God's beloved community. We celebrate each person created in God's image as we strive for justice, peace, and racial equity in our community and the wider world. We openly welcome and affirm all persons of every race, age, socioeconomic class, culture, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, physical and mental ability, marital and family status, background and experience. We seek to live as a community of God's people that values each person's voice, gifts, and full participation in all areas of the congregation's life and worship. We embrace the work of the Holy Spirit moving in and through us as we care for the earth and all of God's people.
Thank you. So this was a journey for us. We had started it before COVID, and we are very proud of the fact that we were able to keep it going through COVID, and we're able to come to the welcome statement and the final pieces of becoming an RIC congregation just a short while ago. However, it isn't just that we did the welcome statement, we got our RIC identity, it's on the door, it's on the website, but it's something that we need to continue to grow into and to live out as our faith community and how we are seen in the world and among ourselves. So I'm going to turn it over to Pastor to talk about kind of some of the things y'all might have noticed today during worship and what you thought about that.
I actually have to thank Pam for kind of being on top of reminding us that this Sunday is RIC Sunday. And connecting in those materials. And so it's an opportunity to kind of look, and we incorporated some of the things that Reconciling Works had sent out, you know, to use for this Resilient Community Sunday. But what did you notice today? Was there anything different that caught your attention or anything that kind of stood out to you?
The Apostles' Creed and the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah.
I like those.
Yeah. Do you want to say a little bit more about that?
No, I just liked it. I thought, I'm taking this home and looking, I like the way it was worded with the Apostles' Creed. It's, you know, when it's different wording, you know, sometimes you think more about it, right? Than just
Yeah.
reciting. So.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, anyone else? What did you notice?
I noticed your vestments were very colorful.
Yeah, that stole was actually a gift when I was ordained, but it has all the colors of the church year kind of on it, but I like to wear it for special occasions. Yeah, so the weaver actually who made that stole struggled with mental illness, actually, and schizophrenia. Yeah, and so that's kind of when we talk about inclusion as well, you know,
When John wears
everybody's
that stole, I always
story.
think of the person who made that.
Right. Mhm. Yep.
You know, 25 years ago at least, this was all done already in California. You know, the evangelical churches out there were already into it.
Sure, yeah. So, did anyone else though, what you noticed today?
Hymns.
Okay, yeah, what did you notice about the
Well,
hymns?
different wording and inclusion, they were very wonderful.
Yeah. That was a lot from, there's a hymnal, All Creation Sings, that we've used a little bit from, and that there too. So Pam has kind of another life playing, accompanying for the Lutheran Campus Ministry, and they use a lot of the songs out of there. But so I really appreciate Pam saying, hey, this has been one that's been really good, and we try this out. And so thank you for that.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's really singable. And they sang it also when Joyce and Esther and I went to the RIC conference. There was a lovely worship service at the close of the day, and that was one of the hymns. But the refrain in particular, with like being room for everyone inside, I think is an important thing to kind of keep at the forefront of our mind.
Yeah.
You might have made some allusions to the topic in your sermon, maybe.
Say more about that.
Got it right.
Oh, yeah, I very much enjoyed it. This is just my opinion. It was not as direct as it might have been. You touched a lot of points that hit me, but I think it might have been more direct, especially with, in light of RIC. I don't know that you mentioned RIC during your sermon, but I'm sometimes not quite as smart as Tommy looks. And so as a result of that, I sometimes miss, but sometimes more direct is better. Sometimes.
Thank you. Anyone else? What did you notice?
I noticed when you first got up to the altar, that a lot of energy.
Okay.
Did you feel it?
You know, yeah, I think so. You know, that is always one that I try to get in a good place, you know, with leading. Some days are better than others, but yeah, I try with God's help. Well, thank you. Thank you, Carol.
Maybe because I was sitting up with it.
Yeah, you had a closer view.
Maybe.
Yeah. It's not bad to sit in the front. It's such a long, it's a long distance to the back, so I get to see kind of more too. I can feel kind of alone. Joyce, you were gonna.
I appreciated the inclusive language that there weren't he's for God.
But there was she.
Yes, and wisdom,
Yeah.
and wisdom she. So yeah, that expansiveness of
Mhm.
who we all are.
Thank you. Anyone else? One of these things about the way I come to church and I'm gonna get asked what I notice.
In the lesson, so we tend to have the same lesson kind of every year. Like there's a big chunk of the Bible that isn't part of church.
Yeah, like Song of Solomon.
And well, and so like the readings today were not readings that we've heard a million times. Yeah.
One body,
First Corinthians often, but it was different,
Yeah.
different wording.
yeah, different wording, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you. Any other, so I was asking about noticing, but any other things of like feelings or meaning that you took away?
I just have to say, because I thought the reading, like you said, the reading from Nehemiah was very timely, given what we talked about last week, about how there's books of the Bible that we just don't often visit. So there it was, and how it is still relevant
Yeah.
to what we need, for what we need for today.
Yeah, even, it's funny, that could be a whole other topic, so I will save that for another time. But yeah, sometimes we may not even notice within the lectionary what readings actually are in there, and those get overlooked, sometimes too. Yeah.
I guess that I noticed that it was very inclusionary with like the three, like you were talking about.
The whole Holy One and Holy
Yeah,
Three.
you talked about all three of the.
No,
You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like you were talking about the Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ, and then.
yeah.
You know,
Mhm, mhm.
So and that was multiple times that came up, that you brought up the Holy Spirit and breathing. I really am a breather, so, so I really like that, breathing in the Holy Spirit, taking it in. It's
Yeah.
really good.
Thanks, Michelle. That actually was kind of a moment for me too, because usually when I'm up there doing the words of institution, it's kind of like, all right, you're on, don't drop the cup or something, or still on the assisting minister or whatever. But it felt good to stop and breathe, actually in that moment, and I took kind of a moment with that as well. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, okay,
You wanna tee this up just in case I can't
sure,
figure out how to move your browser.
give it a try.
So we're going to watch a really short video. It's only about 3 minutes, but it's done by Reconciling in Christ. And it's some people who address that question, why can't church just say all are welcome and leave it at that? So they will address that. It's clunky questions.
All right, hold on. Let's do it this way.
The Panera You Pick 2 you've always loved now has a price you'll love even more. Starting at $8.98, mix 2 Panera faves to craft the perfect meal just for you. Whether it's a soup and salad or sandwich and mac, the choice is all yours. Panera's You Pick 2, endless combinations now starting at $8.98.
Carrying around extra fat is dangerous. This is how you get rid of it.
If you want to drop this, start eating more of these. You might think this would take years to learn, but I'm going to teach it to you in 6.
Skip it.
You haven't stopped sharing yet, or this doesn't show that you have.
Yeah.
All right, so what was the suggestion?
Stop there and open a close that one to open a different window. Probably.
Okay.
Try escape, is the escape.
We have a young person. I'm not kidding.
There we go.
can do computers too.
Pastor's probably the second youngest. Well, I guess Julie's here.
We don't want to.
No, no. Pursue.
All are welcome is a nice sentiment. And most churches probably mean well when they use this.
Make it louder.
And, you know, they could argue, oh, no, everybody's welcome. They just have to be like us. And most of us don't even think that we're saying you have to be just like us or else you're not welcome. But a lot of times all our welcome is speech, is church speech for kind of.
The transgender bisexual guy. I've been to many churches before that have said that they're welcoming and that they've said that they love absolutely all people with no exception. But as soon as they've found out that I'm not straight, that welcome has turned into a form of cold tolerance.
So sometimes the unspoken message that can come across is all are welcome as long as you're straight or don't talk about your partner.
And it takes an extra gesture of inclusion for people who have been abused by the church in the past and people who've been told that they weren't part of God's community.
And so as Christian communities, I think that we can do a lot better than that. And I think specifically naming groups of people who have historically been excluded from our communities is a step in the right direction.
I know when my wife and I are looking for a place to worship, the phrase all is welcome is no longer enough by itself to entice us to visit. Rather, we look for a specific invitation for LGBTQ people, which lets us know that the church has had an intentional conversation about welcoming us. You have to say things like LGBTQ folk are welcome, or we're proud of our inclusivity, or even we've hired a gay pastor, you should come check her out. And it seems kind of hard, I know, because you think somehow you're excluding others. And it's not the case. You have to be intentional and specific about who you're welcoming.
So we fly the rainbow flag and we have our RIC flag posted and we make a big deal about those things. And we welcome everybody explicitly on Sunday so that everyone knows that this community is for them.
So part of welcoming is knowing people's stories also, and knowing the reality of what people feel or experience.
I haven't been able to take my eyes off my husband's pants since he tried this morning.
You just never know how the Holy Spirit's gonna move. So importance of hearing and knowing stories, and I am deeply grateful that Bev, Glenn is letting Bev be the speaker for him. Bev is willing to share her story as a grandparent of a child, and Gabriel is willing to be here. Gabriel's part of our community, and it's been a gift to get to know you in some of the places. He's part of the Cedarburg Community for Acceptance, has helped lead a number of things. You probably all know Bev through the many years, and it's important to know our stories of people that we share pews with. And what does it mean to say all are welcome in a way that says yes? And people of the queer community, trans, bisexual, straight, gay, all specifically are welcome. So do you want to? It's not a subject that comes up just automatically. I think the first one at church I told was Esther. Glenn and I were standing here, we're on a soup and bread, I think, filling out name tags. And then Esther said, and do we do the pronouns? And I said, speaking of which, and then I told her about our granddaughter. 3 years ago at Christmas, when our kids were up from Georgia, Ella at the time was, what, Glenn, 12 and a half, and Lily was 9. And Ella just wasn't happy. And we said that to Jenny the next month, that, you know, is it because she's gonna be a teenager that, you know, going through that, we had gone through that with 2 other grandkids that live in Grafton, Cedarburg. And then the next time they came was June, the following June. And it was a hectic time. We had just got, my mother moved into Lasada Crossings, and it was the month we were moving out of our house, and we had bought my mother's house. And the kids ended up coming the month of June instead of the month of July. And I think it was probably the first night they were there, and the kids have gone to bed already, and we were playing games with Jenny and Stuart. And they said that as identifies as male. And it kind of made, my first thought was, you know, more of a tomboy, you know, or really male. And then, you know, and they had just found out like days before. But somehow our 9-year-old knew about this for quite a while, because in hindsight, Jenny and Stuart said that Lily would call him Ez. And they just thought it was a nickname. Well, then it came out, which was a lot for a 9-year-old to handle. But then they told us that he prefers to be called Ez. Well, we weren't gonna go wake him up, but first thing the next morning when he at the crack of noon or whenever he came down. Told him, you know, I told him I love you unconditionally, you know, and I cry, you get emotional, but I am so proud of him. He, the following, well, then we found out in June, well, that August, he was starting high school. Now he's starting high school in a school where he knew no one. You know, he's not in a public school, he's in a STEM school. So, you know, you gotta be a really good student to be there. You're expected to take how many AP classes every year, and all his teachers, when they went to the open house or met ahead of time, they said, you know, who he is and what he is, and everybody is so accepting. He's got a great bunch of friends. The parents of his friends all know who he is, and we couldn't be more proud of him. I mean, the good thing is in the school he's in, he doesn't have to go through things like bi-ed and stuff, you know, it's all very technical type stuff, but I mean, for him to know who he wanted to be at 12 and a half and not live a lie for the next 10 years or more. And the fact that he's got so much family support, and his parents, my son-in-law is a professor, so he's got a number of students, you know, that have different lifestyles, and he's got so much love and support with us. And it makes me feel so good because it'll hopefully keep the suicide rate down, because that's a biggie, and we would never want that. And he and his sister Lily are still so close. We Zoom with them all the time, and they'll be with us the whole month of July again, the whole family. And we couldn't love him anymore if we tried. He's come out, he's who he is, and How was he when he was growing up? Did you notice anything that was different?
Not until, what do you think, Glenn, that last Christmas? Because we
Yeah,
don't see him
right.
real often. So,
And what did you notice then?
I said to Pastor, he started wearing baggier clothing. Now he's started, well, he's gone to a lot of counseling, both individual and family counseling. I don't know if Lily was involved in that at all. But I mean, it wasn't anything he jumped into, but now he has had his name legally changed before a judge, and he has his birth certificate changed with his name still female on there, got a new passport. So.
Bev, could you say a little, what was it like for you, kind of as a grandparent, but then also with our congregations doing the work of becoming an RIC congregation? How did that affect you?
Well, the whole time we were talking about being an RIC congregation, a lot of it just kind of, you know, because I wasn't affected.
I think Vanjie was caught off guard when I told her because we were out for lunch with another friend talking about a movie where I don't know why they have to bring trans people into this. And I said, well, let me tell you. We've told her, I've told Ez that the congregation is more than welcoming. And when you come up and say hi to him, when they're here, like they were here for Thanksgiving this year and they came for my mom's funeral and stuff. And that means something to him that you've, acknowledged him and he now will wear a name tag when he comes for, they come every Sunday. They don't go to church in Georgia. But they always come when they're up here and now he feels comfortable having his name tag on. And for a while, one summer he came, he had a really butch haircut. Then I could see, oh, he's a boy. Well, now he's got his hair longer. And I still see him as a boy. I mean, he's the grandson we always wanted, I guess.
Have Jenny and Stuart noticed, had any pushback from friends or neighbors or anything like that you're aware of?
No, Atlanta's so much more open, I think, than here. I mean, when they moved to Atlanta, I know I looked it up on the computer. I mean, it's only like 17% white people, and like both those grandkids went to a charter school for grade school. Lily's in 7th grade in the charter school. And I know when Ella was Ella, she was in an African dance group. And she was way in front because so the rest kind of followed her. And my brother Bruce said, I couldn't find which one you were. And everybody else was black. And then she said, well, we all have the same costumes. It's like they don't understand color, that there's a color change. But I shared this at a grief support group because I really don't grieve my mother as much as I grieve the granddaughter, because now we've moved on, but he doesn't want to move back. We don't look at pictures of him. We don't really talk about him. We might look at videos on Stuart or Jenny's phones of Lily when she was doing whatever, but never Ella when Ella was Ella. So, I mourn that part of it. But I wouldn't want him to change because the person he's turned into is such a neat guy.
I just wanted to kind of remark too, with our own journey as a congregation to becoming RIC, the role of grandparents' love for their grandchildren and telling the story, of their experiences. But Ruth Gulnick was instrumental, as well with the story of her granddaughter, Kim. And, and I think I appreciate your sharing your story as well. And just there's a lot of nuance to that and a lot that goes there, but also that leading with love, your love for family and support, that's there and the opportunity to learn.
You never know when your own child may say that. You never say anything to anybody whose child gets pregnant or does this or does that, because you never know when it's in your own back door. Anything you want to add there?
No, that's fine.
I noticed Glenn isn't sitting up by.
Well, my biggest problem is we've had 12 years of calling her Ella, and
Does this happen around? Yeah. Does this happen around puberty or what is the timing of that?
Yeah, I guess it was about that time. I mean, I felt, well, I shouldn't get into that, but I mean, you feel so bad because he feels masculine, he wants to be a man, but still until they did anything, which it wouldn't do anything to counseling, but he's on hormones now. So we don't have a period anymore. I can't imagine feeling like a guy and still your breasts are developing and everything else, but, and if for whatever reason he decided, oh no, I'm really not a boy, well, his voice is never gonna change again. So I mean, he's got much of a lower masculine voice and yeah, there isn't anything I would change about him. He's,
I don't think there's a fixed time. I used to drive for Interfaith Care Group, and people sometimes just had to share their stories in it. There was a woman I drove one, and she just felt moved to say that her 6-year-old grandchild had shared with her that he knew something was different about him. So it isn't just about puberty. When someone realizes their identity is different from what society is assuming about them. And I think it can be much later too.
And you
So-
start to really realize the pressure of prevailing norms
Yeah.
when suddenly I don't feel like that fits for me, you know, but how do you have that discernment, you know, or kind of have supportive community to be with you in the midst of that?
I also want to say, I have just been so impressed by how Stuart and Jenny and Lily have come together to church as a family. I'm sure there were times when I was like, I don't want to. But they came to the family, and I think all of us kind of witnessed a little bit that there was something going on in the family. You just can't help but observe just body language and things. But I just admired them continue to come to faith when they were here visiting you. Wonderful.
It's funny how the day that Bev told me, and we both just got up, remember, and hugged each other. We understood. And you know, I have a friend that lives in Virginia, and her granddaughter turned and changed, and she is just full of bitterness and anger. She said that there's boys and there's girls, and that's it, you know, and so she doesn't see her or anything like that. And it's just so different than the way you felt. And then when I came home after having lunch with you, I just thought about what you said, and I saw the tears fall. And I said, God, how would I handle this? How would I handle something like this? And I just thought about, because that was fresh with you at the time when you told me. And you told Annette. And I just felt for you all the more. And I think that she's so lucky that she has a grandparent and a family that supports her, because I mean, it's almost like hatred with my friend, and I just listen. She will not allow you to talk. So, and it's the same thing with her politics and everything. So it really makes a difference. I mean, how do you handle all these things in life that are thrown at you? And you have the alternative. You do this way, you slowly accept, or you go the other way, which it's your choice.
we get together with different groups of friends and, you know, friends from Port since before we were dating. I mean, so that's, you know, 58 years or whatever we've been friends, and they all know. My book club friends all know, and I mean, there isn't anyone that we hang around with that has said anything negative. And if they were really dead set against it, I would really have to reevaluate my friendship. But yeah, everybody's been accepting.
Yeah, Ruth.
Okay, I'm gonna try and get through this without crying.
I don't know if anybody knows this, but I come from a family of 14. And out of the 14, I have 2 nephews that are different sex. They're married to their spouse, and my granddaughter. It wasn't hard for us to accept her really because, well, first of all, she lived next door to us, so we knew her, and him and her were just fantastic together. And her brother was very good, with accepting her and everything. And it's just something that I don't think there's a time when you know that it's going to happen. I know when she was in high school, kids didn't treat her very nice, and I never could understand why they were treating her that way. And when she came out finally, I think that was what it was. But I love those kids.
And love is powerful. Love changes us.
I even tried to get her to come here, but they were sick, and they lived down near Madison, so it was quite a trip for
It's
them.
kind of a haul, yeah.
How do you, at a young age, how do you defer to that person's desire to be something else? I mean, how do you know that they're committed to this change at that young age?
How do we?
How does anybody know? How
Well,
do they know?
I think the fact that they went to individual counseling and that the family went for counseling. I think Els thought about it a long time. And needed to confide in someone, and his younger sisters who he confided in. Yeah, I don't think it's growing up in Atlanta isn't like growing up here. You don't have neighbor kids you play with because, well, people on either side of them are gay couples and they go into charter school. So, you have to set up play dates when they were younger because you don't have neighborhoods like we had growing up.
Say something more. I think that the idea is to support a person in who they believe they are at the moment. No one can know who they might finally or eventually or change to think they are.
Yeah.
But to support who they are when they feel that, because as I've come to understand it throughout your life, especially sexuality, can be fluid. So someone might say they want something at one point in their lives, but maybe meet someone who, oh, that is not who I am. I'm not who I thought I was. And it wasn't because they were lying or being untruthful or anything, but your own conception of who you are can change. And so I think especially as family and friends, the idea is to support them in their truth at the time.
Julie, you've been around.
After I was divorced, I became virgin I haven't done for over 20 years, and I'm thankful that I went that out because I wouldn't have the confidence in Christ.
I think an important thing to remember too, as we talk about this is hard because it gets framed maybe culturally with a lot of different kind of stuff. But what we're talking about here is about God's gift of community together and the power of love and the difference that makes in our lives and how we can support one another and help each other. So there's probably all kinds of thoughts and ideas and everything that way. But I think what we're talking about is how we are community and how we love one another and how God's love manifests in our relationships together. Yeah, Gabriel is with us here as well. I want to give you some opportunity to share some of your story as you're comfortable doing that.
Sure. Well, I'm thankful to Bev. I think that's a beautiful story and you're doing a wonderful job. And that was incredible to hear. So thank you. Yeah, I'm Gabriel. I'm transgender and I'm queer. And I've been queer from a very young age. And I think for me, being part of the LGBTQ community it's a vocation, it's a calling, and it's something that I am asked to do in order to be a functioning member of society, in order to be like a part of the body, right? Like I could not be here right now if I was not true in who I was as a person. And I think that's what can be difficult about going into faith communities, is that my identities are so important to my spiritual well-being that then if other people say, actually, who you are is a sin, or who you are prevents you from knowing Christ, that really affects me because I know that is not true. So I think it's wonderful to be here and to be part of a community that's so focused on being welcoming and so focused on including people, because that makes me feel respected in who I am. So I'm very grateful to all of you.
You know, if I would just want to speak a little bit too. I've gotten to know Gabriel actually through kind of work in the community, and that has been the relationship that we share has been a blessing too, with kind of my leading of the congregation, you know, as well. But I guess what I'm trying to say with this is the opportunities that come when we're open to all of the different ways that God is leading and guiding, and the things that God is showing, and the possibilities that come there. And it's so easy to get, even with our practice of church, to think of ourselves in a silo, you know, or something, like all alone or isolated. But that it's a blessing to hear those stories, you know, and I think that's some of what we're continuing to learn, even as a congregation, with planting a prairie and who comes to that, you know, and who enjoys that or who's moved by that. But it's different ways of living out our identity of who we are, you know. And but I guess I just wanted to acknowledge that there's folks in the community who have that vocation, you know, to do this work together. And that's helping me as a pastor, and I think helping us as a congregation to think, how can we do that together, you know, and support each other along that way. Yeah. Anyway, my stream of consciousness, convoluted thought.
Why do you use the word queer? To me.
Yeah, it used to be more of a slur, and it's been reappropriated by gay people. We've taken it back. And people like it nowadays because it's very broad. So I can say queer, and it could mean that I'm bisexual. It could mean I'm gay. It could mean I'm trans. It could mean anything. It's very broad.
Trans.
Being transgender means that you were assigned a certain sex at birth, right?
Yeah.
And then later you learn that you are not that sex at birth. So I was assigned female at birth, but I don't live as a female.
And when did you feel that?
Since a very young age. Yeah. But it took a long time to come out, because I think it's an odd thing to tell people. It's an odd thing to say.
I don't know, it's just a funny word for it is.
Yeah.
Well, and Carol, you've maybe in your lifetime heard that as more of a, like Gabriel was saying, like a derogatory or an insulting word or something, but it's been claimed by people who it was targeted at to say, we're going to use it in a different way.
I'd say so much easier than stringing out the alphabet soup and thinking, I'm gonna pick out a letter and affect someone on a letter.
Yeah.
So it is nice if people from outside the community are allowed to use it.
Yeah.
That's kind of my question. Is it something that others are allowed to use?
Yeah, you can say the queer community for sure.
And talking with Bill Byer, pastor of Grace in Thiensville, he's really embraced queer too, and talking about the queer community.
Yeah, but I think it's important to remember that queer was a slur because queer meant strange. So I think keeping that in mind is good. Like, do I consider the queer community to be a strange community?
My mother didn't like it when gay was appropriated.
Yeah.
She liked the word gay.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, she couldn't really use it as freely as she might have liked to. No, kind of a nice flip to me.
How frequently do you get any kind of poor approach by other people to you, or of your lifestyle or of the queer community?
Part of my personal practice is being very open and accepting of other people. So I I try to be very open-hearted, and because that's my approach, I tend not to get very much flack because I love you and I care about you. And if you don't understand me, that's your problem. It's not my problem.
It seems like there's still a lot of attacks going on though, throughout the rest of the world or our country anyway. That's why I was curious if you were experiencing a lot of that yet.
I mean, I think the negativity towards the LGBTQ community affects me, of course, and I think it has affected me personally, but I am so uninterested in being negative because I'm living my life. And I am so proud of being who I am, and I'm so proud to carry on a legacy of queerness that has transcended so much hate.
Joe, I would maybe add just a little bit too of it's interesting. Maybe this is easy to dismiss, sometimes, but I think what Gabriel was sharing is so powerful of what we allow to define us. And when we don't allow, I think sometimes a lot of attention will go to the hateful, negative, vile, kinds of things, and we just kind of become powerless to that. But what a difference that it makes to choose a different way. And locally, right here in Cedarburg, many of you are aware that there's a person who stands outside of Penzi Spices holding up a sign. And, that has reflected kind of not so welcoming, friendly things to a lot of different communities. But the response of people in the community to not just attack or demonize, but also to say there are other people who want to say a very different message. And when that comes together, it's powerful, and strong. And I think that's really important, just to acknowledge that. And that's not to say that there aren't hateful acts, or difficult things that happen. We can't sweep that under the rug. Anyway.
What does the sign say?
It said a variety of different things. The sign has had to do with abortion, that's been one of them. But then the other was about people mutilating their bodies, as far as like gender reassignment or things like that. Gender reassignment surgeries. Yeah, those are the few that I'm aware of. I don't know if there's been others.
The reason I asked you is my daughter from California found that Penzi's out here, that's all spices and stuff. She loves the store, and I thought maybe there was something I want to tell her.
I think I'm not exactly sure why he picked that particular location to hold his signs, but it's like a public spot on the sidewalk, and so that's where.
Penzi's very.
Penzi is very justice.
Yeah.
It's very what?
Justice oriented, inclusive.
Oh.
The owner is very outspoken about we need to love everybody.
You grow up in this community?
No, I grew up in Wauwatosa.
The video of All is Welcome. I've thought of that as I drive past a Catholic church that says all are welcome. And I think, no, they're not. If you're divorced, you can't take, and remarried, you can't take communion in the gay community, and all are not welcome. So it really did hit home that's a term we need to be careful of.
Yeah, I was raised Catholic, and so I appreciate that background. But yeah, it's hard for me to feel fully welcome in a Catholic church. Not so much by God, but by the people.
What does it feel like to you? And what does a church need to put into action to really be welcoming? I mean, we can have the words, and we could even say the words, sexual orientation, gender identity, and not live it out. But what does it feel like that you know that you are welcome?
I think you're doing a wonderful job. I think you've you've achieved it as a congregation. I felt very welcome today. And I think you're a very welcoming group of people, which is very nice. I'm hesitant to make particular recommendations because I think it takes a church opening their arms to the community, but it also takes the community recovering from a lot of trauma and being open enough to accept that a community will accept them, if that makes sense. Like you have to hold your hand out and then I have to actually reach for your hand. And that can be difficult. But I think what you're doing is great. I think you're being very blunt, you're being very focused, and you're using specific language to say these are the people that are welcome here. And I like that.
What's been your experience within the Cedarburg community?
I love living here. I think it's great. I think I've lived in a bunch of different states, and I think the people in Wisconsin are so sweet. And I think Cedarburg especially, people are just very wonderful.
I have a question I want to ask you, but I don't know if it's embarrassing. When you go to use the bathroom, where do you go?
See, bathrooms are a really difficult topic because politically they've become such a target. I think it's such a funny thing now that we all have to worry about where we're going to the bathroom. Yeah. I'm not going to answer your question though, I'm sorry.
State of New Jersey, I'm talking about probably 40 years ago when I was looking for a job. And I was at the state employment service. And I was interviewing with a fellow, and I guess I went to use the ladies' room. And when I came out, the fellow said to me, "Did you know who just went in there?" I said, "No, I don't notice anything different." And apparently it was a trans. I didn't know that. It really didn't faze me.
Yeah.
Now I notice you have 3 earrings.
Yes.
Is there something about that?
That's just my style. That has nothing to do with anything else.
I have a pink hair. If you wore an earring in one ear, you were male or something. Or you wore one the other ear, you were female. Anybody remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Because I dated a guy in high school and an earring in he was just in the theater, basically.
Oh.
I mean, but not gay and married, not me, but anyhow, he got an earring. It was just such a huge deal for a male to get an earring in the 80s, early 80s.
Right.
And there was a thing though, you got it in one ear and it was just stylish, and then you got it in the other ear, and supposedly then you were saying, yes, I am a part of the gay community.
It was something, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a phrase, right is right. Left is wrong.
Yes, that is what it was, Joe.
But it only meant something to somebody who knew that. I mean, I never knew about that, so if you don't know about it, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, in the high school you did.
Yeah, because it was
showing your age there, Esther.
You just go to high school in the 80s.
Right.
Because it was just such a big deal for anybody other than a female to have an ear piercing.
it was
Now
very-
it's like
very
no big
strange,
deal.
right?
Yeah.
Didn't really think about that till now.
What about your piercings? Do they mean anything to you?
Say that again?
Your ears, do they mean anything?
Ear piercing.
Well, to me, it's normal to have 2 ears pierced.
Because you're a woman, it's normal for you.
Yeah, I mean, I would feel upset. I feel terrible if I were to lose it.
Yeah.
I don't know why they don't add better backings on them, but anyway. The nose thing gets me.
Interesting, yeah.
I don't particularly like it.
Okay. I like cows.
But you say that because this past week where I live in that big place in Grafton, that lovely place.
Yeah.
We had two horses, they weren't ponies,
Oh my God.
come in, and it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
And they were so sweet. It took them a while to get them trained, they said, to be calm like that, because they take them to schools. Yeah, they take them all over. And these two girls do it. And what was I going to say about that? Something about these two horses.
The ring in the nose.
Yeah, the ring in the nose. They didn't have it, but I've seen like cows or. Why do they have it? Is that how they hook them on the barn or? I'm not a farm girl. I'm from New Jersey.
Or getting back to our question. Just real close as we close up.
Okay.
We had a closing.
Change the subject.
How can we more fully live out our identity as an RIC congregation? So people from the LGBTQIA plus or queer community know they are safe. So I think that's the ongoing question. How do we continue to live it out?
It should be on our sign outside.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the big sign.
The big sign, yeah.
Change the flag.
The wooden one.
The wooden.
The wooden one in the
And I don't
circle, yeah.
know if RIC is meaningful to people in the queer community, but it's meaningful to other Lutherans.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be something that we could think about doing.
Yeah.
But also, like, if we were to put, so, you know, because I think Advent has this reconciling, at the either said reconciling Christ community, which I don't think means a ton to non-Lutherans. I agree with you. So then you say, all are welcome, but then that might be suspect because the Catholic Church also says all are welcome.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Or do you put a rainbow on it? I don't know.
That's what I would suggest. Any kind of rainbow.
Because that is that is something that's recognized universally across religions, across everything, right?
Well, I wondered if Reconciling Works allows the use of their rainbow symbol on sign, if a congregation is RIC.
I think but I would think if we are, that we could use their
We have
symbol.
the sticker.
Yeah.
There's a
Mhm.
sticker. Well, it was on the North End store. I don't know if it got lost with the
But I
construction.
just think that's a much more public space.
Yeah.
Than
Right.
on the door, you have to actually come to the.
Right.
window.
Right,
But people walking past, yes,
Right.
how do we more visibly?
yeah.
Because
That's
if
a
we're-
good idea.
Fred loves changes to the sign.
Ready now.
So any other thoughts? So I think that's a wonderful one. How do we more visibly have the rainbow
Right,
sign
right.
on the sign?
Okay.
Other thoughts?
I really appreciate what you said, Gabriel, about, you know, it's one thing for a hand to be extended, but it also is for the other person to feel comfortable
Right,
to
yeah.
receive that or to extend their hand as well.
Right.
You know, and I think, I guess you guys all hear me talk about this way too much and probably shut me off when I say it, but I think knowing people's stories continues to be very important. You know, how valuable that is to meet people where they are, to listen, probably even more than we talk, because we love to talk, you know, and control a conversation, but to be vulnerable actually, and to let someone else tell you, you know, and really receive that. But I guess I wonder about that as a congregational practice.
I kind of, too, I think, like, not the building, but like for us as members of the congregation to show up when we need to show up and we need to show support. But just the importance of.
Erin?
I'm glad you feel very comfortable.
Thank you. You helped, so thank you.
Oh.
In the last 2 or 3 years now, we've had a Pride Witness downtown. In June it's been, and have lined, so the first year, 2 years ago, and for the first one, and I think you helped organize it, Gabriel. I think that's the first time I walked over across the street and got to meet you and said, hey.
And I mean, there were 80 or 90 people lined up across the street so that the voices of Cedarburg are here and can speak welcome. But we have to really be vigilant about that because other voices can be dangerous.
Yeah, tell people that you know a trans person. If anyone asks, you know one.
And yes, and
Yeah.
I just so appreciate you sharing
Yeah.
your stories, that you're willing to be here to share that, to allow trauma not to take over your life. And that we can be able to share in joy of community.
Bring some of your friends. Oh, excuse me.
The June Pride worship service is gonna be here at Faith.
Oh, okay.
The Pride worship in June is going to be here at Faith instead of at the park.
Hopefully outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you, Bev,
Yeah,
for
bring
your
some of your
willingness to share your story, and Ruth, always to share your story. I mean, that's the reality. We are community. We all have stories, and it's a gift to be able to hold those stories and to hold one another in love.
People aren't gonna go into a church and say, oh, and I'm gay or I'm trans, you know, yeah, we have name tag Sunday, but we don't put straight, gay, trans, whatever.
Right.
It doesn't come up in conversation.
No.
So we're gonna take a long time to
Right.
find out who people are.
And I think when you said, Glenn, you know, sometimes words slip or names, I regularly, for the people I know who are used their pronouns, oh man, the number of times I have to catch myself because the way we've been programmed, but it's about how do we be intentional.
Right.
And to
Well,
work
for
on it.
years, we've said, because we have 4 granddaughters, it's always, come on, girls, we're gonna eat. Come on, girls, get them hard. Well, now, when the kids are there, it's like, now it's guys. One of the
Yeah.
guys is a girl. So,
Yeah.
Lisa?
I think too, like, religion is so complicated right now, and just even Christianity is very complicated right now. And like, for me, I think with all the division that we see culturally, I think it's also like, at least for my faith and for what I want to speak to, and I think as a part of this congregation, is emphasis that God loves us. We have a loving God, that God wants us to be whole
Mhm.
and complete. And there's room, and God made us diverse and have different thoughts, and we look at things in different ways. But that it's God loves us, and I think we need a lot of healing right now, you know. And so I think emphasizing like wholeness and healing and forgiveness, but lifting each other up. Like, we're at a time where we need to lift each other up.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for coming. If anyone wants to be part of our RIC team, we don't need to meet a lot or do stuff, but we always are looking for others. So Pam and Esther and I, Ruth was in that team at the beginning. Just be able to share and to consider those questions constantly of how do we continue to live out our identity. So thank you all so much.
See if I can get over in a chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I would.
So are you going to
Curious
grab a
question. What's your name?
dinner or lunch?
Bye.